What's up? It's your boy KC. How y'all doing? Today is March 9th, 2016, and I'm coming at you live with episode 19 of my podcast show. I got a lot of things that I want to say today, so there will be no grind my gears segment. That'll come back next week. I have so much stuff that's just been pissing me off over the week when it comes to wrestling, and I want to get this started now. I want to talk about people and the hypocrisy and the stupidity in this world. I am so tired of seeing those people who put people on pedestals just because they're famous, just because you grew up on them and everything that they do is okay with you. That's bullshit. And I'm going to take Hulk Hogan for a second because Hogan got what he deserved. Hogan knew what he was saying. It's not like he was a young kid or anything. He's a grown-ass man on the videos saying all that racist shit towards people. And I'm glad that he got punished for it. Because Hulk Hogan for years has done nothing but look after himself. He's done nothing but step on other people to get what he wanted. And somebody finally punished him for the shit that he's done. But I'm tired of seeing people just because you grew up on him, just because he made wrestling famous, that it's okay that he says the shit that he says, people going around making excuses. Oh, well, everybody said that. I don't give a fuck what everybody did back then. That doesn't mean that it's not wrong. That doesn't mean that it's not wrong, the shit that he says. The Benoit stuff, just because Benoit was famous and Benoit had great matches, he was a good wrestler, all of a sudden it's okay for the shit that he did, right? Killing an innocent child that never got a chance to grow up and do anything, to be anything. That's what I'm looking at. He killed an innocent woman and a child. I don't give a fuck about his matches. Yes, he was a great wrestler, but I'm not going to sit here and try to make excuses for the man. I'm not going to make excuses for somebody like that. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who feel connections to their favorite singers, to their favorite movie stars or sports athletes. But when people do horrible shit like that, like molesting children, like killing somebody, raping women, beating women, or racist shit, you guys need to grow the hell up and you need to come down hard on those people, because that's exactly what they are. They're just humans. They're humans with a lot of money. That's it. I'm sick of people like you out there making excuses for everybody out there just because you happen to be up their ass. No more excuses. I don't want to hear it anymore from people. I want to talk about WWE and their bullshit. Now, I commend these guys for punishing Hogan and firing him, sending him home. I commend them for doing that. But why just Hogan? Now, I don't believe for 1 second that they pulled Hogan out of the Hall of Fame. I believe he's still in there. In my gut, I believe that Hogan will be back one day. But you're going to punish Hogan, but you're not going to punish the other idiots in the Hall of Fame that have said the same shit that he said over the years, that have done worse things than he's done. That's why I find it hypocritical, because you punished Hogan and fired him, but you're going to turn around and keep Michael P.S. Hayes employed and put him in the Hall of Fame, when there are multiple wrestlers that have worked with him that have said that he called people the N-word multiple times in his career. But I don't see y'all erasing him from history. What about Ric Flair? You talk to Teddy Long and find out what it was like working with Ric Flair. Ric Flair would use that word a lot too. But I guess just because he's a multiple time world champion and one of the best wrestlers of all time, right? I guess that's okay by you people, right? You're gonna make excuses for him too? Why don't they erase him from history? What about Road Warrior Hawk? According to Too Cold Scorpio, Hawk called him the N-word and they never got along since then. Is it because he's a part of the greatest tag team of all time that he's excused from saying shit like that? What about Andre the Giant? Now, Andre is probably one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, but nobody ever mentions that he called Bad News Brown the N-word, and that he can make fun of Kamala. And I listen to Kamala, I listen to his interviews, and I listen to the shit that this guy has went through in his career. And I have no reason to doubt that what he says is true. Not everything, but when he talks about that, I have no doubt in my mind, because that's the way the business was back then. They didn't erase Andre from history. Let's dig in deeper. How about the fact that they built a fucking statue of Ultimate Warrior when Ultimate Warrior said a lot of prejudice shit towards people, towards gays, towards people that are crippled. He said a lot of bad shit, and they act like this guy was just the nicest guy in the world. When they went to induct him into the Hall of Fame, they named a fucking award after him. I don't get this shit. I was listening to the Soda Monster the other day, and he had some really solid points. He said a lot of bad shit over the years. Bobby the Brain Heenan being sick as he was, and this guy was rejoicing over the fact that Bobby the Brain was about to die, that he was suffering from cancer, and you kick a man when he's down. But this is the guy that you have a damn statue of, and he's still in the Hall of Fame. Why don't you just go ahead and put Dynamite Kid in there too, as much of a bastard as he is? You can't do one and not the other. If you're going to punish Hogan, then you need to punish all the other dumbasses in there that have done the same shit that he's done. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about, the hypocrisy in WWE. They do one thing, we need to separate ourselves from Hogan because this is what's going on. Now, if it turns out that Jimmy Snuka murdered his ex-girlfriend, are you going to pull his ass out of the Hall of Fame and erase him from history? If it comes out, as much as I love the guy, as much as he is my all-time favorite wrestler, Macho Man Randy Savage, if it comes out that it is true, that he had a relationship with a 17-year-old Stephanie McMahon, you need to pull his ass out the Hall of Fame too. You need to punish him too. I know the man's dead now, but you need to act on that if it comes out that he did that. On to The Rock. The Rock is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. The Rock is probably the perfect wrestler. The guy can talk his ass off. He will do whatever he can do to get people over. He's not a selfish wrestler the way that some people are. That being said, the one thing that has always bothered me about The Rock is I always hear about the famous Anoa'i family with Rodney Anoa'i, Yokozuna, God rest his soul, Eddie Fatu, Umaga, R.I.P., Junior Fatu or Solo Fatu Rikishi, the Wild Samoans. You know, I hear about Roman Reigns, I hear about Superfly, and The Rock's grandfather, High Chief Peter Maivia. That's all well and good. And we do know that his father is Soul Man Rocky Johnson. But one thing that I've always noticed, and I don't know if it's because he was afraid for his career, but it just always feels like The Rock has never truly embraced the fact that he is the first black WWE champion. I don't give a fuck when anybody says, I don't care anymore. I don't want to hear that bullshit about, oh, well, he's not fully black, so that doesn't count. The Rock is the first black WWE champion. You can't pull that bullshit and then turn around and be happy about Barack Obama, who's only half black, and you want to call him the first black president? You can't do that shit. The Rock is the first black WWE champion. I don't give a shit what anybody says. But I always felt like The Rock never truly embraced that. And that's always bothered me about him. Is he ashamed of that side of his family? I mean, I don't know the guy. I'm pretty sure that The Rock is probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But if I ever met the guy, that would be one of the main questions that I would ask him. Why didn't he include that in his character? Why didn't he include the fact that he accomplished something that has never been done in the history of WWE? And that's just something that's always bothered me over the years. I'm going to go over the WWF Raw results from February 29, 2016. It started off with Dean Ambrose confronting Triple H, saying that he wants a title shot. For what? I don't think Dean deserves one, just because I like him a lot and because the guy can wrestle his ass off. He lost way too much. He lost in a triple threat match against Reigns and Brock. He lost his Intercontinental title to Kevin Owens. He lost the Royal Rumble, the one that Triple H won, that bullshit Royal Rumble that we will probably never speak of ever again. Dean Ambrose has been on nothing but a losing streak, and the fans really like Dean. They've been getting behind him when they had no reason to get behind this man. And it's sickening that they keep shoving Roman Reigns down people's throats when they clearly picked who they want to be the guy. I know Roman has the look and all that, but you need to go by what the people want. And that's just something that WWE just doesn't do anymore. If we had the same stubborn people back then when The Undertaker was coming up, and when Steve Austin and when Mankind and all them guys was coming up, Mick Foley would have never gotten anywhere near the WWF Championship. If we had this Vince McMahon now, that in this era, if you took him and you put him back in the Attitude Era, I have every reason to believe that Mick Foley would probably be a jobber. And that's sickening to say because Mick Foley is great. I love Mankind. I love the Dude Love character, the Cactus Jack character. But you have Vince McMahon who's just so far up these guys with the muscles. He's so far up their asses. Cena and Reigns. And he's up Brock's ass because Brock is a big monster. And stuff like that. And he just wants to push the guy so badly that he ignores the fans. So when you take a guy that the fans like Dean Ambrose, and you beat him, and you beat him, and you beat him down, I find it hard to believe that he's a challenger at all. They need to rehab this guy over the next couple of weeks. I know he's just a roadblock on Triple H's path to WrestleMania, so let's call it what it is. And Triple H said in order for him to even consider giving him an answer, he would have to go up against the League of Nations 3-on-1, which is bullshit. Up next, we have Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. It went to I can't say disqualification, I guess a no contest. That's what I'm looking for. It was a double pin, kind of like what they did on NXT between Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn. A really bad looking pin at that, but still, that means that Charlotte is going to be going up against both of them at WrestleMania, just like everybody knew was going to happen. And that's the way that it should be. Up next, we had The Miz beat Dolph Jobber. That's what I'm going to be calling him from now on, because Dolph Ziggler, as great as he is, I don't see Dolph Jobber getting above a certain level anymore. I think that it's time for Dolph to consider maybe leaving and going someplace else to become successful, because they're just keeping the dude down. Just like Dean Ambrose, who, he's in that top tier of good guys up there. He's in that top lane up there. But Dolph is just, I don't even know what to say on him. He lost to The Miz of all people. Someone that nobody gives a fuck about on that roster. And he lost. Up next, we had Sheamus versus Rusev. They beat the Lucha Dragons. That's a good way to treat a United States champion. You just keep beating him. That's why I say to people who keep saying, we should bring back the ECW title. We should bring back the hardcore title or make a tag team championship for the women. Why? They don't even know how to treat the titles that they have now. They put these titles on these guys, like I said before, and they just beat them. They job them out, and it just devalues the title. Why the fuck should you bring in more titles? More useless pieces of gold that they will never use right. It's pointless, people. Up next, we had Ryberg in a match against Adam Rose. Who gives a shit? Ryberg beat him. I don't care. I really don't bring myself to care anything about those guys. We had AJ and Jericho versus the New Day, in which they actually won the match. And them winning the match makes them the number one contenders for the tag team championships. This should be interesting when Jericho turns on AJ. We had a match between Bully Ray and Jey Uso. Bully Ray pulls off the win, and they proceed to put him through a table. What happened to We're Not One Trick Ponies? That promo that they cut was useless because they're saying we're not going to give the people what they want, and then they proceed to do it anyways. The writing in WWE sucks. They do one thing and they say another. I will never understand what's going on in that company. It's like this company's scripts are written by 5-year-olds with short attention spans. We had The Undertaker make his return to the ring in a short promo. You got Vince McMahon blabbing out there talking about The Undertaker as his instrument of destruction. Deja vu, anyone? Back to the Attitude Era? Because I remember him saying the exact same shit when it was him and Kane. Undertaker and Kane, when they teamed up and they was going around beating the hell out of everybody. And Undertaker comes out. He makes that slow walk to the ring. He grabs Vince McMahon by the throat and he says, "You know what happens when I slam that Hell in a Cell door behind me. Your blood, son, is not on my hands. It's on yours." Awesome. That's all he needed to say. And he got out. And what Vince McMahon proceeds to say, Shane McMahon, after you lose the Hell in a Cell, you will no longer be my son. You will be my son of a bitch. In other words, he's insulting his wife. We had the Big Show versus Kevin Owens. Who gives a shit? I'm so bored of the Big Show, it's not even funny anymore. Naomi defeated Brie Bella. That's how you treat somebody on their way out. You just kind of drag them through the mud. You know, I can't help but feel bad for her. Brie Bella, you know, her sister's injured. Her husband had to retire. And it's kind of like they're just taking all their frustrations out on Brie. I've never been a fan of the Bella Twins. I've always think they were horrible wrestlers. They did improve over the years, but I'm still not a fan of theirs. But the fact that, you know, she's kind of alone in this whole thing just kind of sucks when you think about it, you know. You would think they would give her some kind of a moment, not just because her husband retired or anything like that, but the girl is calling it quits soon, and it would be nice to give her a nice moment when winning a Divas title or something like that, because when was the last time she held that belt? The last time she held that belt was when she beat Eve Torres. Eve Torres! Someone that hasn't been in that business for years. What happened there? We had Dean Ambrose lose to the League of Losers. They got disqualified for beating the shit out of him, and he would not stay down, and which Triple H proceeds to come out and he hits him with a pedigree and says, I accept your challenge. And that's your Raw results. Now it's time to cheer up a bit. I know I went off on a bit of a rant at the beginning of the show. The video game portion of my show, where we talk about video games all the time. I'm not going to pick a video game of the week. What I'm going to do is pick a series, just this once, because I can't just pick one game out of this series. This series is so criminally underrated that it's not even funny, and it's probably due to the fact that a lot of gamers put too much emphasis on graphics. They think the graphics make the game, in which it doesn't. That's why games like Super Mario Bros. 3 is still beloved to this day. The Fire Pro series is exactly what I'm talking about. These are quite possibly the best wrestling games out there in the world. I don't care what nobody says. It's not all about graphics. Just because the 2K WWE games look better than those games does not make them better. The Fire Pro series have everything that it takes to be the best. They have thousands of moves. They have creative wrestlers. They have the ability to have 8 or 10 different wrestlers in the same match. We got WWE 2K that still can't get past 3-on-3. You get what I'm saying here? Graphics aren't everything. These games are extremely fun, and I never get bored playing Fire Pro D for the Dreamcast or Fire Pro R for the PlayStation 2 or even the Game Boy Advance Fire Pro games. Those games are fun as hell, and those are handhelds. And I've always felt, like I said in a couple of episodes ago, that Fire Pro would be great on the PS Vita or the 3DS. And the reason why I say the Fire Pro series is the best wrestling series out there is because I played a lot of wrestling games. I played so many WWE games going all the way back to Super Nintendo, going all the way back to WWF Super WrestleMania, WWF Raw, WWF Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, the arcade game. I played SmackDown 1 and 2. Hell, I still have it up as a part of my PlayStation collection. Here Comes the Pain. The list goes on. And I found myself always getting bored after playing those games a while. Not the Super Nintendo ones. Those games are fun. But once the SmackDown vs. Raw series started to kick off and everything just started looking the exact same every single year, like the football games, like the Madden games, like the basketball games and all that stuff, I just got sick of playing those games. I played through the THQ Aki WCW games. Those games are still fun as hell because they managed to take the same engines and implement more into the following game, WCW vs. NWO Revenge. Those games are extremely fun, and it's something that they just don't do with the WWE 2K games that they come out with. They update the graphics and that's it. That's all they do. It's the same thing as it was last year. And The Fire Pro series, every time they come out with a new game, always has something new that hasn't been done before. And that's why I said that the Fire Pro series is the best series of wrestling games. Starting something new in this portion of my show where I call it, Is It Worth It? Where I pick a random game and I play it no matter what platform it is from, and I tell people if it's worth it or not. And the first game of this series is Batman Arkham Blackgate for the PS Vita and 3DS. This is a 2.5D graphic side-scrolling game. Boy, that rolls off the tongue like honey, doesn't it? This game gets criticized a lot. I don't understand why. When I got my first PS Vita, which was the Assassin's Creed edition, and I played the hell out of Blackgate on that system. And this is one of the problems with the video game world, as I said about the Fire Pro series earlier. People put too much emphasis on graphics. Graphics do not make the game. Just because a game is not up to the quality standards of the PS4 or Xbox One, or even the PS3 and Xbox 360, does not mean the game is not fun. You know what I'm saying? You could get a game that looks beautiful, but is boring as hell. Final Fantasy 13, anyone? Remember how boring that game is? Yes, the game was gorgeous, but it was boring. I remember standing in line for that game at GameStop. I told this story before. I stood online for 3 hours to get that game. I took that shit home. I was so bored with that game, I took it back 3 days later. That's a damn shame. I would rather have a game that does not look as good as that game, but it's fun, and I can play it over and over again, like Double Dragon 2 for Nintendo, like Batman for the NES. They didn't have crazy graphics like these games do now. Of course, they had limitations. But people go back and they play those games much more than they will play the new Tomb Raider. Much more than they will play the new games out these days. Why? Because they are fun. And I just wish that people would drop that mentality and just play video games. Stop being so damn spoiled. That's my problem. But anyways, you gotta give this game a try. The Batman Blackgate game is not as bad as everybody says it is. Coming from a guy who actually beat the game, it is a lot of fun. The fighting is good in the game. The controls take a little bit to get used to, but if you sit down and give it a chance, you will have. Now I want to talk about Konami. Konami, what the hell happened to this company? You guys suck all the way down to the bone. How do you go from making a series like the Contra series, Castlevania, Metal Gear Solid? Remember Turtles in Time and how fun that game was? So many games that came out of that company, and now they do absolutely nothing. They don't even want to do console gaming anymore. These dumbasses want to focus on mobile gaming. Mobile gaming? Who the hell cares about that market? No disrespect to Japan, who they're out there, they make mobile gaming to be like this big freaking deal. I don't give a damn about mobile gaming. Is there any mobile games on there besides Temple Run or the Lara Croft Go app that are actually any good when it comes to games? Everything else is pretty much emulation, which you can do on a computer screen. What happened to Konami? Are they trying to drive off the rest of the fan base that they had? I think they did that, and quite successfully at that. I don't think this company is ever going to be able to come back from what it once was, especially since they lost Hideo Kojima, who was the mastermind behind the Metal Gear series. And I think that this last Metal Gear Solid game, Metal Gear Solid 5, was the last game that they're going to come out with when it comes to that series. I hope not, but I don't see Konami doing anything with the series. What about the Silent Hill series? The Silent Hill games were great. The PT demo, everybody was getting behind that. They really wanted to see how that game was going to play out, and Konami just shut it down. They shut it down real quick. I don't understand why. They could have made a lot of money, but obviously this company does not want to make money. I mean, I can see that for myself. Look at all the shit they've done over the years. I bash Capcom for all the shit that they've done, but they kind of got their act together. You know, I just hope that they don't make a long list of Street Fighter V version games that are going to be coming out. I hope they just come out with Street Fighter V and that's it. But Konami, I don't even know what to say anymore. I can't feel bad for these guys. I can't. Because they've done shit to purposely make the fans angry, to make the fans swear off their games forever, and that's something that a company should never, ever, ever do. And I would be surprised if Konami still exists 5 years or even 10 years from now. Because unless they get people out of that company and get people in there who actually want to make video games for the video gamers out there, this company is going to die very painfully and very slowly. And that just sucks to say that because there's so many games that I enjoy playing from this company. It's just bullshit. Anime otakus, the anime of the week is a movie called X. And get your mind out the gutter, it has nothing to do with porn. This is a deep, dark, gory movie from 1996 that takes place in the year 1999, the year of destiny and the beginning of the end of the world, at least in their universe anyways. A young man named Kumoi Shiro, he has to choose between slaying the dragons of earth or the dragons of heaven, two opposing armies. He has to choose which side he wants to take. The dragons of earth, they want to save humanity and preserve it. The dragons of heaven want to kill all humans and purify the universe. So that's basically what the plot of this movie is. And he grows up with two other people in this movie, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but his friend, his best friend, has to choose between both sides also. I'm not going to give away the ending of the movie. You guys need to check this out. It's something you need to add to your collection. Another idea for an anime that should be made is, wouldn't it be cool if you took a movie like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, as beautiful as that movie is, the scenery and the fighting scenes in that movie, and you make that into an anime movie? Can you imagine the off-the-wall shit that they can do in a movie like that if they was to take a plot and they implement the characters and make them into two Japanese anime characters? Somebody needs to get on it. I don't care if it's abridged. I don't care if it's OVA. Japan, you need to make it happen. Another series that I would like to see have an anime. You mean to tell me out of all the Final Fantasy games that we have, we didn't get at least one decent Final Fantasy anime? I don't care if it's a movie. I don't care if it's a series with 12 episodes or 26 or even more than that. We got two Hollywood movies that absolutely grade A suck ass. And I'm like, with a story like Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy VII, people would lose their shit if somebody adapted the game Final Fantasy VII into an actual Japanese anime movie. I think that series deserves that. How about a Metal Gear Solid anime? You could easily pick any game from that series and make it into a great anime movie, or at least a decent movie. I think it's worth a try, minus Sons of Liberty, because you know what? I'm going to rant for a little bit. Am I the only one that hated Raiden in that game? I remember how hyped up I was when I got that game. Man, I was going around with the new graphics of Solid Snake just taking out soldiers. And all of a sudden they switch you to this whiny little bitch named Raiden, who talks about how he's afraid of the night and he's stuck in this love triangle straight out of Days of Our Lives. And I remember how pissed I was when I got switched to this guy and I had to play as him through the remainder of the game. I was so mad I wanted to break the disc. I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to be stuck playing this guy? End of the rant. But I think the Metal Gear series would be good for animes. What about the Resident Evil games? You could easily make great movies out of the first 4 Resident Evil games. You could take either one of those stories. Please don't do 5 because I don't like 5, and please don't do 6 because 6 doesn't know what the hell it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be action. It doesn't know if it wants to be romance. It doesn't know what the hell it wants to be. Resident Evil 6 has an identity crisis. But I would love to see something like that happen. I did sit down and watch some more Dragon Ball Super. I'm still in the middle of the Champa saga, the battle for Universe 7. That's the universe that we're in. Universe 7, the tournament over something called the Super Dragon Balls. I get more and more confused for each episode that I continue to watch because there's so many plot holes and so many things that is wrong with this series. It's great in a lot of ways, but it's confusing. Now we have the Super Dragon Balls, which are 7 planet-sized Dragon Balls. Planet-sized Dragon Balls. Why the hell would anybody create something like that? Can you imagine what kind of power those Dragon Balls have? And that's what this whole tournament is about, to see who gets possession of it between Beerus and Champa. That's what the whole tournament is about. These Dragon Balls were created by the god of dragons, Zorama. These Dragon Balls can only grant one wish, and once the wish is made, they are scattered across two universes, Universe 7 and 6. That is crazy. Now I'm really starting to get interested because I want to see how this is going to pan out. I found out the name of the guy who defeated Goku in this tournament. His name is Frost. I'm serious. His name is Frost. A guy that looks exactly like Frieza, and his name pun is on the cold temperature. First we have Chilled from the episode of Bardock. Then we have King Cold. Then we have Frieza, Cooler, and now Frost. Wouldn't it be funny if it turns out that everybody in Frieza's race has a name pun on the cold temperature? That's just awesome. On that note, since I said the episode of Bardock, I'm going to talk about this for a second. Though I thought it was cool to see Bardock as a Super Saiyan, it makes absolutely no sense. This whole thing makes no sense at all. There is no way in hell that you can be sent back in time from getting blasted straight to hell. Frieza designed a blast to destroy planet Vegeta and all the Saiyans that are on it. If it's supposed to send Bardock back in time, then where's everybody else? Where's everybody that Frieza killed over the years? Shouldn't they be back on that planet back in time with Bardock also? If Frieza's blasts have the ability to send people back in time, that shit makes no sense at all, man. And that's it for episode 19 of my podcast show. You can check out my channel anytime, KC the Most. I have a ton of content on there for everybody that loves the subject, talking about music, talking about movies, anime, wrestling, video games. I have some Let's Plays up there. I have a couple of top 10s. I got some new top 10 videos coming for you guys. This is your boy KC. I'll check you out later. Peace.